Bring Turron in. Turron Davenport, USA Today, joins us live, 97.3 ESPN. What's going on, Turron? How are you, my man?
Hey, I'm doing well, just trying to get these articles ready for the Eagles Wire. So, you know what I mean? It's all good.
Yeah, man. Yeah, check them out. USA Today, Eagles Wire, Turron Davenport on Twitter at @TDavenport_NFL. And right now, there's a lot of things you can write about, positive. Obviously, there's a lot of bittersweet stuff you can write about. And I guess let's start there. Jason Peters going out. What does that mean for this team moving forward? Because last year they lost Lane Johnson for a long stretch, and the season took a turn. They were pretty good last year when Lane Johnson went out. Should we expect something similar this time around?
Well, I'm not saying you should expect any type of major decline like that, where the team just completely goes to crap. It's going to be difficult replacing a legend, though. But, I mean, there's things you could do. One of the things you have to remember, this isn't the same team this year as it was last year. There's a lot of upgrades. So, I mean, obviously losing Jason Peters will hurt. What you'll see, and I tell you what, if you go back and you look at that play, Mac Hollins, his touchdown, you'll see how they could put together ways to buy more time. Now, obviously that was on the right side, but, they had Trey Burton go in motion and come back, and he kind of crashed down, got a real hard chip on Ryan Kerrigan. And that gave Mac Hollins time to run that long development route, that double move. So that's something you could do. You flip the sides, and you do that to help Vaitai on the left side. You could also use your running backs to chip. Now, I know having a running back, especially in the guys here in this offense, they've struggled in pass protection. But if you could just have them come out of the backfield, get a little chip, a little bump on the defensive end and knock them off course or slow them down and release to a route. Those are ways that you could kind of scheme around it. And then, of course, you could always slide protection to that side. I think Big V would be all right on the left side. I would not move Lane Johnson from the right side to the left side because you're taking a guy who's one of the top three, if not the top right tackles at that position, and moving them to another side. You're weakening two positions. So I think they should be in good shape. Just get Vaitai in there and give him a chance.
Turron Davenport's with us. Let's flip to that big injury on defense. Now, I'm not saying that Jim Schwartz downplayed it, but he did say we've played a lot of football without Jordan Hicks. So what is the replacement plan? How does the Eagles' defense look without Jordan Hicks on the field? Because he is right. He's been hurt a lot, although last year he was out there for virtually the entire season.
Yeah, well, you have to also look by name. They're a base 4-3 team, right? But if you look, they're in sub package in their nickel a lot more than they have three linebackers on the field. So, in essence, what ends up happening is you have Michael Kendricks, who's been balling out anyway. You have Kendricks kind of replacing Jordan Hicks. Because he's on the field with Bradham. So now you have those two together in that nickel package. When they go base, Joe Walker is a guy that they'll try to bring along. Najee Good is very athletic, and you'll see Bradham in there. He's going to be calling the plays for the most part. So he'll be that communicator, which is good because he's a guy that had a bit more experience than everybody on the team, except for Corey Graham in that defense. He and Schwartz, they date back to 2014 in Buffalo. So I think that's a good thing. They'll be okay. You'll see a lot more Malcolm Jenkins in the box who tackles as well as, if not better than any safety in the league. So you'll see that, with their three safety package, Corey Graham becomes ultra valuable now. He and Rodney McLeod with that too deep, too high type of coverage. And I think that's the way they'll go about replacing him. It's going to be tough because Hicks does a really good job of getting everybody lined up. He does a good job of coverage, and he's a guy they like to blitz. But I think Bradham is just as capable. And this is good for Bradham because he could really make a case for why he should be brought back next year.
Turron, I want to take you back to the left tackle situation with Vaitai. Could you kind of tell us what you saw, particularly after Jason Peters went out? I mean, especially when they switched Kerrigan onto that side on some crucial third downs, it seems like Vaitai held up.
Yeah, they gave him help a couple times, but yeah, he just held up. He didn't overset, and when you say overset, what I mean by that is you kind of get off balance. He was able to get back into his drop, get a good base, and that's something that's important against a guy like Kerrigan who's as strong as the ops coming off the edge. So I think that was a good thing. And it was just a matter of scheming, too. You know, they have really good plays in place, you know, the check downs and things like that. And that's what I saw from Vaitai. But most importantly, he relaxed. And that's a major thing that you have to be able to do. I think he's the guy to come in and play. I mean, there's other options, but I think he's the one that they should have at left tackle. If he doesn't do well, you always have the option of signing a guy like a Brandon Albert, who, from my contacts in Florida, he's in great shape and he's able to come in and play. So that's something you could do if Vaitai does not work out. You also have the option of trading for Joe Staley, and he would give you, you know, he's 2 years under contract, pretty inexpensive. So that's something you could do, too. For right now, I think Vaitai is the option, though.
So you think this is more of a tryout basis with Vaitai? Because remember, the trade deadline is coming up. If you're going to go after a guy like Staley, and obviously if they bring in a guy like Albert or even consider it, you know, he'd have to get up with the speed of the system.
You could almost have a tryout for Staley. He's going to be matched up with Graham on Sunday.
There you go.
And that's exactly what I wrote when I did a post on some options at left tackle, and I said there's a chance that Joe Staley never gets back on the plane to go to San Francisco, because I mean the trade deadline, as you mentioned, is the 31st. Hey, they could, you know, make that deal if it blows up right then and there, as far as Vaitai being at left tackle. But as far as getting acclimated with the system, Brandon Albert played in this system before. His final year in Kansas City was with Andy Reid, when Andy Reid had a quietly underrated debacle with the #1 pick when he picked Eric Fisher. That was a crazy pick, but you know that's a different conversation. But that's what led to Brandon Albert leaving Kansas City. So he has the familiarity with the system. So that's something else you could do. The good thing about that is you have time to let that Big V situation kind of blow up if it should happen.
So no Dwayne Brown. He's not in the conversation at all.
Well, here's the thing: you trade for Dwayne Brown. What's he going to want? This, you know, in the upcoming. He's going to be a free agent, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So
well, that's a good point. But also, real quick, because they gave an extension to Peters. So if you brought in a guy that was only a 1-year flyer, what's Peters' situation? I mean, I know that he's got a major injury and he might never play again, but he is extended till 2019, correct?
Yeah, he's extended to 19, but I'm curious. I want to see the language of that contract, because I don't know if that actually means like if they have insurance for any injury or anything like that. So that's something to look at.
Yeah.
You know, I'll probably
he got like 15 million. He got like 15 million guaranteed, I believe.
Yeah, but you know, the guaranteed isn't always guaranteed. You know, there's guaranteed and then there's fully guaranteed.
True.
So there's different levels of guarantee. That's funny, but yeah, there's different levels of it.
You mentioned Brandon Albert, right? And the fact that you said people said he's in really good shape. He last played in Miami last year. He visited a couple of teams, the Giants being one of them, whose offensive line is awful. So if they didn't sign him and Seattle didn't sign him, does that say something, or was there money problems there? Why isn't he a 32-year-old guy who was pretty talented not in the league?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I think would be best for Mr. Jerry Reese and you know, Snyder out there in Seattle. So I don't know, honestly, why they didn't sign him. But here's my thing. Like I said, I think Vaitai is the way to go. Albert, he was considered a commodity. I mean, look, a team traded for him, you know, just in this past off season. And he was a guy that was going to be the left tackle there in Jacksonville. So I don't know, you know, what's happened between then and now that would make him have his skills deteriorate that much. I believe the guy could still play.
Yeah.
And if he's still staying in good shape, hey, I mean, like I said, he could come in and be an insurance policy. And then a lot of people forget he played guard at Virginia, you know, when he was in college. So
yes.
Here it is, you have another flex option that could fill in a couple positions if you need him to on the offensive line.
Hey, by the way, Jason Peters, if the Eagles cut him after June 1st next year, it's an $8 million savings, and dead money is split over 2 seasons, totaling over $5 million, $3 million in 18, and over $1 million in 19. So there is some parameters in there if he gets cut after June 1st next year. So I guess they're just going to have to wait to see how he comes back. This is a guy who's 35 years old. But what I want to ask you, Turron, is wide receiver. Jeffrey, big 1 year, decent money. Torrey Smith brought in. But is Nelson Agholor their top target right now as a wideout, not tight ends included, wideouts only?
I think from a wide receiver perspective, he's their best option. And this isn't something that's just all of a sudden coming out of my mouth. This is something that I've felt for quite some time.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have.
In the spring. So I think he's their best option. I think having Alshon there is helping him. I talked to Nelson today for a while in the locker room, and one of the things we talked about was just the importance of having Alshon there. So while Alshon is not doing what people want statistically, schematically, he's doing a lot. And not only schematically, but just in the locker room itself. A lot of the success that you see guys like Zach Ertz having, guys like Agholor especially having, is on the strength of having Agholor there. So I know he's not among the league leaders in receptions, receiving yards, but when it comes time to get that tough catch, in third and long type of situation, he's the guy that can run that slant and use his big body. So he's definitely played a role. Carson Wentz really likes going to him also. So I think he's worth what they're giving him this year. After this year, I want to see how this whole contract works out, though.
He's Turron Davenport, USA Today, Eagles Wire, and he joins us here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. Make sure you give Turron a read and a follow on Twitter at @TDavenport_NFL as the Eagles get ready for the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday. Turron, always a pleasure, pal.
Thanks, Tig.
Jeff, I appreciate it.